I was a real estate attorney in New York. I worked on mostly commercial transactions. My friend from high school was a residential mortgage lender, building a business in Austin. The pandemic hit, so you really have to be proactive in trying to source new business. And so that's where we kind of started getting interested in SEO, and it's been hugely successful. We're singing its praises. I can't believe that it's possible to get clients through this way.
Want to attract and convert more leads? Want to learn how digital PR, branding, and SEO can establish and build your brand identity? Welcome to the Market Movers Building Brands and Links with Linkify podcast. We answer these questions and help you ramp up your brand visibility and credibility. Let's cut through the noise and make your business the talk of the town. We're your hosts, Nick and Chris. Let's get this show on the road.
Welcome to the Market Movers podcast. Today we are joined by Max Liporace, Strategy Director at LendFriend Mortgage, a former real estate attorney and legal director turned industry innovator. He's redefining how modern lending grows and connects. Welcome to the show, Max.
Thanks for having me.
Max, thanks for coming on. All right, to get started, why don't you tell us a bit about your background and how LendFriend came to be?
Okay, so I was a real estate attorney in New York. I worked on mostly commercial transactions, large multifamily buildings, office buildings, and industrial warehouses. My friend from high school was in residential mortgage lending. He was a residential mortgage lender, building a business in Austin. The pandemic hit, and I pivoted from law to joining him in his residential mortgage lending business called LendFriend. So LendFriend was started in 2018. And it was started with purchase business. Eric and Michael came from refinances. They were doing refinances in Florida and moved out to Austin because Austin was a rapidly growing city, where there was a lot of business at the time. I mean, Florida, since the pandemic, has been very hot, but at the time, Austin was really the hot spot. So they moved from Florida to Austin and started doing residential mortgage lending there. Quickly became successful because they built a business on trying to create a partnership with realtors, whereas a lot of lenders at the time believed that, like, hey, I'm just here to service the client. Give me all your clients. And so realtors is really a one-way street. We try to do it differently, a two-way street where we would source online leads, qualify them, and give them out to realtors. It worked very well. In 2019, we started to see exponential growth. That's when I joined later on in the pandemic. But in 2020, we were doing $300 million of volume. In 2021, we did $380 million of volume. Interest rates were low. Everyone was looking to buy. Austin was tremendously successful. And we saw that with the level of business that we did with realtors, and then and also like all of our online business, giving out leads. Fast forward to interest rates going higher significantly, and Austin cooled. We really needed to pivot. Interest rates were so high, and the retail lending model is challenging when interest rates are high because they have a lot more overhead. And so we pivoted to a mortgage brokerage. And that's kind of where we've been ever since. We're a mortgage brokerage since 2023. We saw the market significantly decline in Austin and throughout the US. We pivoted. We were trying to figure out what the next step was as a mortgage broker, other than just surviving the high rates. Survive until 2025 was the big saying in 2023 and 2024, because everyone was expecting the rates to be lower. They never lowered. In fact, the rates in 2025 are just as high as they were in 2024, and transaction volume is the same. So you really have to be proactive in trying to source new business. You can't just, hope and pray that there's going to be more business that comes, or realtors are finally going to start sending you business again. And so that's where we kind of started getting interested in SEO earlier this year, and it's been hugely successful. We're singing its praises. I can't believe that it's possible to get clients through this way. I never thought it was going to be possible when I started doing it in May, but it's been, amazing.
That's awesome. It's really, really cool to hear as well that you did successfully pivot, because that's a hard thing to A, make the decision to do, and then B, actually do it. So that's really cool. You say SEO, you can't believe. That's awesome to hear. You said that you were hearing in your industry survive to 25. All we're hearing in our industry at the minute is SEO is dead, which is obviously not true. I'm intrigued, like you tracking how your customers are finding you from organic search, like
Yeah, so we use HubSpot for everything, which, I'm told now may or may not be the best program, but, I do probably 90% of all of our SEO work. And so I just learned everything through HubSpot. I built, all of our websites, all of our landing pages, all of the way that the chat flows. And so like, I can't imagine ever leaving HubSpot. But yeah, we track everything through HubSpot, and we see whether it comes through Google or ChatGPT or Grok. Generally speaking, if they don't come through, like we get phone calls also, like direct from wherever they're coming from. They call our like the office line. And that's the first question we'll ask, like, where did you come from? And generally it's Grok or Perplexity, ChatGPT.
Wow.
I would say probably 60 to 70% comes through like AI platforms and then or LLMs, and then the rest comes through Google.
Well, I assume if this is similar to like the real estate brokerage space where most of the brokerages aren't focusing on SEO, they're focusing on relationships, networking. Is that the case in this space as well, in the lending space?
Yeah, so there's a website called Ahrefs, or I used to call it Ahrefs before a friend of mine corrected me. So Ahrefs, and it kind of gives you a good sense of what people's or what websites are getting organic traffic, what keywords are going after, and I compare a lot of our local and regional competition to it. How are we doing relative to another local Austin mortgage broker or a local Austin lender when it comes to keywords and organic search? And I was surprised that when I was first looking at it, we were horrendous. Don't get me wrong. We had like 10 keywords and 7 organic traffic. And we never put any thought to it. And I was surprised the most prominent lenders in Austin weren't much better. The most prominent one had a organic traffic score of 300, and keywords of, 150, but in the top 3, they were really only at 8, which isn't very good if you want to be, the one people find when they're looking for a certain key term, whether it's, self-employed mortgages or asset depletion loans near me, or even Austin mortgage broker near me. You really want to be constantly upping your game so you can rank at the top for all those keywords.
So walk us through what your like keyword strategy and content production strategy look like, because obviously it's working. And what's really interesting to hear as well, or I'd like to get your take on this, if you actually had an LLM sort of slant to that strategy, or you just focused on ranking in Google, and then this like massive additional AI search traffic has just been a result of good SEO.
Yeah, so I will admit that when I started doing this, I had no idea what I was doing. I had zero clue. And my first step was someone told me, oh, go on Upwork and try to find someone who can help you with SEO. And so you go on Upwork and it's completely overwhelming. Also, you get hit with tons of people that may or may not be scam artists. I don't know. Upwork says that they vet them, but who knows? And they all tell me your website's terrible. You have a domain rating of 3, and this is what you need to do to improve, and hire me today. And so I thought about doing that, and what it just came down to is I was like, hey, let me do a little bit of research on my end before hiring somebody and see like what it actually takes to do SEO and what SEO is, because it sounds like it's such a high concept that like no one can understand it. But I think once you start doing it little by little, you learn a lot more. And that's what ended up happening. When the first month of me doing SEO, it was very slow going. And I thought to myself, like, oh, I'm just going to write blog articles that people want to read. And if I put out enough content, then Google will notice me. And then I realized that it's not necessarily about the quantity of content, but the quality of the content. I started focusing more on like the things that people who are buying actually want to know. And also, I also thought, hey, Rocket is such a big name in the space, and Rocket has millions of organic search and tens of thousands of keywords or hundreds of thousands of keywords. If someone's searching conventional mortgage or I need a mortgage lender or whatever it is, Rocket's naturally going to be way above me and any more established company. And so what I started doing was I started looking at more niche loan products that aren't so commoditized that us as a mortgage lender can really excel at. For instance, a self-employed borrower is very tough for a traditional mortgage lender to wrap their hands around. They don't make their income in a steady manner. You might have a busy season or a slow season. And so the loan products for a self-employed borrower don't really fit the mold of a traditional lender. It's better suited for a mortgage broker. So that's one of the areas where I really started attacking in terms of blog articles, how to buy a house as a self-employed person, how to qualify for the most amount of mortgage or the highest mortgage amount that you can qualify for. And that started to see traction. And so then I created a landing page or refined a landing page because we had landing pages. They were all terrible. But I refined the landing page, and that's when ChatGPT started to pick us up. And it was really only initially thinking, hey, I want to rank higher on Google, that ChatGPT started to pick us up. And I thought it was really interesting. Now, it's funny. I tell someone, hey, here's a prompt to give ChatGPT, see if they recommend LendFriend. And they always do. It's, number 2, number 4, number 5, number 1, if we're lucky. But yeah, and the nice thing about ChatGPT or Perplexity or Grok, whoever whatever LLM platform they're using, is it has a lot more authority than Google search. If you rank on ChatGPT and ChatGPT says, "Hey, call these people," it's a lot higher. We're more top of mind to that person, and they trust us more than if we're number 3 on a Google search for SEO. But what the people don't know is that it's exactly the same. I haven't done anything to try to sway ChatGPT and than I would for Google.
Yeah, that's very true. I think there's some things it will look at that Google's not. So Google's looking at those like ranking factors where ChatGPT will factor in your Better Business Bureau rating, your reviews, your certification. So there are some benefits there. It's usually like the big established companies have all of those things in order. So that's kind of built in, I think. Now, I want to go back. You were talking about ranking for some of these like very specific loan products. What comes first? Do you guys have these loan products and then you're like, okay, this is low competition? Or do you discover like crypto home lending is really non-competitive and you go back to the team and you're like, we have to build this product? Like how did that work?
Yeah, so it's the former. We have these loan products that we have been originating for years. We've been doing, self-employed borrowers for years. Being based in Austin, a lot of people are business owners or have 1099 income, or maybe they have RSUs. They work at Apple, and so there's a lot more of these niche loan products that we have experience with just naturally, but the hardest part for us was getting the word out there. Hey, we have a ton of experience in these loan products, but unless the realtors were referring us, they weren't coming to us because, we weren't. If you're buying leads, for instance, you have no idea what that person's looking for. And 99% of the leads that you're buying are just, straight W-2 borrowers that are looking to buy a house. They found a house on Zillow. They put their information in. They didn't know Zillow was selling their information to a lender. The other way would be SEO. And with SEO, it was much more targeted. If someone finds you, they're specifically seeking out that loan product. We had a guy that came to us that got denied because he's self-employed and his lender didn't realize that they weren't going to be able to use the majority of his income. And so he said self-employed lenders in Austin, and found us. And he wouldn't have otherwise found us if we hadn't started doing SEO 6 months ago.
Mm.
So it's just very interesting how it works. But with the crypto mortgage concept, that product is new. It's based on a product that we're very familiar with, just uses a different asset. And so when that came around, it came around in July when I had just started to really get my hands around SEO. And I was like, I got to make a landing page for this. I gotta write blog posts. And it was basically like, 18 to 20-hour days because I was still brand new at doing all this, trying to get the post up, or the landing page and the blogs up. And within 3 weeks, we had people find us and want to apply, and have, we've helped probably 7 or 8 crypto investors buy homes in Illinois, California, Texas, all finding us through Grok, ChatGPT, and Google.
I'm sure it's testament to your content then, because ChatGPT or all the LLMs, they if you're addressing very specific customer like search queries in relation to a niche product, and you're answering the question well with good content, then that's obviously what's being picked up by the LLMs. That's why they're surfacing that's why they're repurposing your content as their output, and then also citing you as a source and recommending you as a provider, which is awesome. I'm intrigued to know if this SEO and AI search traffic for these more niche specific lending products has offset that like lost margin and increased rates in the current market conditions. Like, are you weathering the storm with this direction?
Yeah, so it's funny. I was just talking about it this morning with my partners. 2024 was really difficult, as was 2023, obviously, with the rates as high as they were, and us being based in Austin. 25, we decided that we were going to go beyond Texas. At the time, we were licensed in 2024. We were licensed in Texas, Georgia, and Florida. So we decided to get licensed in more states, which is better for SEO because you don't really know where they're coming from. So with the SEO and the expansion, our volume is actually up 100% year over year, which is huge considering transaction volume is flat. And on top of that, currently, borrowers coming from Google and ChatGPT, Grok, and all the LLMs is currently making up 50% of our volume for November.
Wow.
Yes.
Important channel.
Yes. Yeah. So it's millions of loan volumes, about 12 loans. It would have been 14, but we've had 2 people cancel because of the government shutdown. So we're hoping it reopens soon.
Yeah. Do you know what's nuts, right? We're in the weeds with this stuff because it's our industry, and all we see is like SEO is dead. SEO is not what it was. Like SEO was the holy grail 15, 20 years ago. And yet you are someone who's like taken this approach, like from a HubSpot learning platform, integrating it like, was it 12 months ago? And now you're generating 50% of a multi-million-dollar lending business via organic search and LLM search.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, like we literally wake up every time we get a call and someone's like, "Hey, I'm under contract. I Googled you. I'd like to work with you guys. My lender couldn't do it." Or, "Hey, I'm just starting to search." Yeah, they're not like, you're not finding people that are desperate for a lender. We've closed deals. We've closed loans that are $2 million from people that found us off Google and ChatGPT. And, they're niche products. So oftentimes you're not competing with a Rocket. You're not competing with a lender right next door where you're cutting your margin, pulling your pants down, for lack of a better phrase, to get the deal in the door. It's very interesting because we thought that the online business, for so long, we thought the online business is, really dirty work. It's the worst borrowers. It's the smallest margins. No one wants to do it. And that's why you need millions of dollars of online infrastructure that Rocket has or Better has. And you really don't. it's me writing a blog a day, and fine tuning websites. You get a couple people to help you out along the way, and it can really be transformative.
So, what are you guys doing on the AI front? So far, it sounds like most of that is coming because you've already created the assets. ChatGPT is discovering it. But how are you thinking about your strategy going forward? You're in a good spot where you're maybe an early adopter to some of these niche products. But as
Right.
people start to like catch on to this, you have a good spot to cement you as a leader. But what are you doing on that side? What's the AI strategy going?
Yeah, it's a good question because I always tell my two partners, especially with the crypto mortgage product, that crypto is becoming more mainstream. It's only a matter of time before more people start offering it. In fact, I saw a bank do an advertisement on an Instagram account that I follow called The Real Deal, where they were promoting their crypto product. And as far as I know, last month that crypto product didn't exist. So I always think we're like 60 to 90 days away from competitors catching up to us. Um, the fact is that like it for me, the only thing that I constantly do is try to rank higher for keywords. It's really important, and I think that, for instance, for like Google. Google for me, if we're doing well on Google, then I just naturally assume that we're doing well on um, ChatGPT and Grok and all them. It's hard to track it. Ahrefs has something that I tried, but it was very hard to understand. And it's very expensive, so I didn't do it.
Mm.
Um,
And they don't work.
yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
understand. I couldn't understand what it was telling me. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
here's the queries. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. It's been vibe coded
Yeah.
by some 18-year-old in his bedroom. That's why.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I couldn't get it to work. So it didn't really matter. But yeah, I don't, I use ChatGPT to help me refine some of the phrasing, like on our websites. Um, but other than that, like I don't really know how as more people start to, use GEO, I don't know how I'd end up
One
something
thing that
for later
we
down the road.
one thing that we know is going to be a significant contributing factor to sustained visibility in both Google and LLMs is being a brand, a recognizable brand. So you've done phenomenally well ranking keywords using tools like Ahrefs to find those keywords and then produce good content and ranking Google and LLMs. But no matter what the hacks are, in order to rank, eventually what it will likely boil down to is how much of brand recognition you have. So do you have a broader or long-term growth strategy in order to grow LendFriend's brand? I mean, even just being on this podcast is that sort of part of
Right.
that strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when in 2020 and 2021, 2022, we were probably one of the largest lenders in Austin, top three. And we had, this big expansion story that we were thinking we were going to go after. And then interest rates went to, call it 8%, and it really derailed it. I think ideally, what didn't happen for LendFriend in 2022, I think was actually beneficial. We were really chasing, conventional FHA loans. And I think that what we've learned is we're much more interested and much better at the non-QM side, those self-employed borrowers, the asset depletion loans where someone has, $5 million of Apple stock that they don't want to sell, but they want to buy a house. The same with, Bitcoin. You have $6 million of Bitcoin. You don't want to sell it. You don't want to have to pledge it over to someone, like put it in a Coinbase account, never to be touched. But you want to buy a house. Those types of loans are really interesting. And the borrowers are great. They're very knowledgeable people. They know what they want. They act quickly. And so that area is something that we're trying to become more of a brand in. We just got licensed in New Hampshire, for instance. I never expected to get licensed in New Hampshire, but we had a Bitcoin investor who called us and said, "Hey, I want to buy, a $2 million house." I found the house. can you guys do the loan? And we're like, not yet, but we'll get licensed in New Hampshire for it. Just give us a week. And we were able to get licensed in New Hampshire, and we did the deal.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, so we want to, I mean, we would like to be a household name when it comes to the non-QM side. Of course, we're always happy to do conventional FHA, VA loans. But like I said, it's a very saturated market. It's very commoditized, and you're competing with, huge companies um, that right now will go as low as they have to go to get the business because that's what they want. They want the servicing rights, and then they want to be able to refi that down the road, and so they'll lose money on the deal if they have to, which we're not in the position to be able to do as a small company.
I think that's just amazing that you can actually get a home loan just based on your Bitcoin balance. I mean, that's huge,
Yeah,
right? Like there's been so many people who have all their wealth has been in crypto and there's
right.
nothing they could do with it. So I think that's it's really cool that we get to that point where you can actually get a home loan. I'm curious though, how does that work? Let's say Bitcoin's at, what is it, 117 today, and you said someone has,
Yeah.
5 or 6 million. What if it crashes down to, 40K? How does that work with your mortgage?
Okay. So, um,
Nick's thinking about his 2
the,
million Bitcoin that he's got.
I wish.
that's good. That's great. That's great.
I've already done self-employed mortgage, and that was a pain in the ass.
Yeah. So the way it works is basically you take your balance, whether it's 2 million or 5 million or 10 million, and a haircut gets applied to it. Call it 50%.
Okay.
So automatically, it takes a lot of the risk off the table in terms of what happens if Bitcoin crashes. And by the way, there's a similar haircut applied if you want to use Apple stock, just in case there's a stock market crash. So the way that they do these non-QM loans is much safer than it was in like a 2008. Everyone gets nervous. They're like, oh, you're using crypto to buy a house. It must be really risky. It's not that risky. And you're also required to put a 25% down payment down on the house. So it's not 100% loan, and they're not using 100% of your assets to qualify you. There's cushions that provide the lender with security, and honestly, you with security in case does crash. You don't have to, be worried about how am I going to make my mortgage payment. We have and we had a client that had $6 million of Bitcoin, and he had a job where he was making $150,000 a year, but he wanted to buy a $4 million house. Now he's never going to qualify for a $4 million house with a $150,000 salary, but using the Bitcoin to supplement, he was able to. And so you don't have to only use the Bitcoin. People, we have borrowers that have retired off the Bitcoin that they have or the Ethereum that they have. And we have borrowers that have it as, a nest egg. A lot of people that we talk to, we have a lot of, investors or Bitcoin maxis believe that Bitcoin's going to go up another, 2x, 3x, 4x. And so they don't want to sell. So it's nice to be able to, keep that as a nest egg, have another source of income that you can use and buy a house.
Is that only work for Bitcoin and ETH? Like if you got someone they've got a meme coin, how does that work?
Yes. So currently it is
You'd have
just
to
Bitcoin
haircut
and Ethereum.
95%.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No Farcoin. There's no.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't take Farcoin. We only do Bitcoin and Ethereum. We've gotten inquiries about Ripple and Solana, but right now it's just Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Where's the due diligence done on the Bitcoin? Is it you, or is that passed to the lender to check the wallet and all of the?
You have to mail in your hardware wallet.
Yeah, like how does
so
that
that's
work?
the thing. So we basically what you have to do, you have to move the money over to Coinbase.
You have to move it
for a minimum of 1 month.
Okay.
Oh my
but then
God,
once you close,
put your numbers into move 6 million.
yeah, and then once you close, you can move it back into a hard wallet or wherever it was, if it was in Gemini or anything else.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it's Coinbase verifying it, and then and yeah.
So it's actually much more like systematized and processed than I thought. It seems it makes a lot of sense actually.
There are competitors that have a crypto mortgage where they require the borrower to just put the the Bitcoin in a Coinbase account that then securitized. The lender
Mm-hmm.
basically has a pledge over it. And so if you miss a mortgage payment, the lender gets to draw on the funds. But that's not how our crypto mortgage works. Ours is more of an asset utilization mortgage. So it's basically saying like, hey, you have $8 million in Bitcoin that equates to X amount a month of income. So you can qualify for a mortgage payment of Y, which is a mortgage of whatever $1 million.
Okay.
That's awesome. I imagine as well, these products will evolve over time. Like you said, there has to be a 25% down payment. I imagine in 5 years' time, that might look different. Maybe it's less as there's more stability, as it becomes more widespread. So it'll be interesting to see how the whole thing evolves as well.
Yeah, for sure. If you're using Apple stock right now, the minimum down payment is 20%, right? So there are slightly tighter standards for Bitcoin just because it is a brand new asset class in terms of these wholesale lenders. The fact that wholesale lenders are honestly considering it as an asset class is great. There's obviously a ways to go, but it's nice to see that it's starting to be accepted.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, yeah. Well, Max, this has been awesome. I always feel slightly depressed after we talk about people that have got like multi-million dollars worth of Bitcoin, because it just shows that I missed the boat. I didn't
Yes.
manage to make any. I just lost money from crypto. So thanks for that. I'm going to not sleep well tonight at all. But yeah, your journey as well, how the company has pivoted and where the direction that you're on now is super, super exciting. If people want to get in touch, if our crypto listeners that have got $100 million worth of Bitcoin want to get in touch, where can they find you? How can they reach you?
So you can email us at contact@lendfriendmtg.com or give us a call at 512-888-5099. Or you can always go to our website, lendfriendmtg.com.
Or you'll just find them naturally in ChatGPT when you're having a
Right, or just ChatGPT is.
Yeah. Okay, Max, thank you so much. It's been awesome.
All right, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Max.